Greetings, this is Ty Brown with AthleticDirectorU. I'm here at the 2017 NACTA Convention. I'm here with Alan Greene. Alan is the Athletics Director at University at Buffalo. Alan, we're glad you're here with us.
Ty, thanks for having me.
Now, Alan, you've been in the job for a year and a half roughly, and the varied experiences, the pressure. Can you tell us, what about this position do you find most satisfying?
Yeah, I think that it is watching the student athletes grow, watching them compete, being able to provide the resources to the best of our ability to help them achieve success in the classroom and on the field and courts of play.
Okay. Now let's look at the reverse. What about this job do you find the most dissatisfying, or the challenge, I guess?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is, and this will be more of a personal thing, is trying to find time for myself. There isn't much, and I think understanding that you can't serve everybody, but you certainly try, and I think that's what that's one thing that I think is really challenging, because I'm the type of person that wants to make everybody happy. I want to be able to serve everyone, and when I do so, I don't serve myself. I was just talking to another athletic director, and she was telling me that you got to take time for yourself, and it's hard to be disciplined, but you have to, for the betterment of your organization and for your own well-being. How
have you addressed it? I mean, it's a challenge, a year and a half.
Not very well. Not very well. My wife and I take a couple's vacation once a year, and then this time of year is when I start to run on E. And so once we get through June, I'll find a couple weeks in July just to kind of take some time for myself and spend some time with my family.
Refresh.
And try to recharge to the best of my ability, yep.
That's good. Now, this role, you talk to a lot of athletic directors, and they can really point back to one specific, we'll say, sponsor or mentor that helped them get to where they are. Who was that for you, and how did they help you?
I can't think of one, Ty. There's several. I usually talk about my father, first and foremost, because he has helped instill values in me that helped me realize how important it is to treat people with respect, regardless of where you are on the food chain. And honestly, to treat the people who are perceived to be at the bottom of the food chain better than the people who are perceived to be at the top of the food chain. So he's definitely one. There's been several mentors, several people who I have watched throughout the years and have stolen from some pages out of their book in terms of how to navigate our industry, how to prepare yourself. And then, Danny White, who hired me at Ole Miss and then took me to Buffalo with him, has been someone who I've relied on heavily, and someone who I have grown with in going through the first-time athletic director's role.
Okay. Speaking of that, year one versus where you are in year 1.5.
Yeah. Year 1.5. Seems like I'm on month one, probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've had several challenges in my tenure. We had a student athlete pass away in the first 3 or 4 months on the job. Very difficult. We recently discontinued 4 sports, which has been very difficult. And so, in many respects, although I've been an AD for a year, half of me feels like I've been one for 10. The other half, I feel like I've been one for a couple months, just because I haven't really had much of an opportunity to really sink into to help get us where I think we need to go, because of some of the other things that have happened. So in many respects, and I guess I'm a little bit lucky in the sense that I'd been there before. I'd been at Buffalo for 3.5 years prior to taking over, so I had a lay of the land, so I didn't have to redo that. But I think it's more about just being comfortable with the pace, being comfortable with the lifestyle, and really being disciplined with how you're going to approach the job to try to serve as many people as you can, like I said before, without doing too much damage to yourself.
Right. And you'll have to have, I imagine, when you're making those big decisions, people around you that you trust.
Yes.
And how do you gauge in who, when you're a year and a half in, first 3 or 4 months in, you're deciding who you trust? I mean, you were there before, but now you're in a leadership role.
Sure. And I think, each leader's a little bit different. Has a little bit different of a management and leadership style, a little bit of a different vision, But we've been fortunate to have some consistency, and I was very fortunate to have been a part of the team that assembled the team that I'm now responsible for. But I think trust is something that you develop over time. And you know, it's been said before that it's the linkage between words and actions. And so I find it very, very valuable to align myself with people and surround myself with people who do what they say they're going to do. They may not do it the way I want them to. They may not do it as fast or as I want them to. But as long as they do it, and that's how I think you build trust. And I'm very fortunate to have an absolutely outstanding staff that I absolutely trust, that have been loyal to me, to the university, and very committed to what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
So allow people to do their jobs. One person once told me, measure me by my product, not by my process.
Yeah.
Unless the process is the product, right?
Right. Yeah.
So allowing people to
yeah, you know, it's one of those things where we move at such a fast pace, right? So in many sense, process is a part of the evaluation, but what you want to do is make sure that, at least for me, I don't want to be over someone's shoulder. I'll let them know, here's how quickly that I feel like we should get something accomplished. I just need you to get it done in that time frame. And how you get there, I don't really care. Just make sure that we get there, right?
At a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. And at a high level. Yeah, we want quality also.
Exactly.
We want quality also.
Exactly. So when you look at skill sets from, if you're going to hire, whether it be a young professional or somebody on senior staff, you look at skill sets from outside of the industry.
Sure.
You know, if you hired somebody from business or you hired somebody who didn't work in college athletics,
yeah.
but they were in athletics,
Yeah.
what's appealing to you, I guess?
I think first and foremost, it comes down to fit. And I know people use that term, I think, quite often, but it certainly depends on what type of organization you're trying to operate. But fit is very important. You have to be able to get along with people. You have to be able to work with people. You have to be flexible. You have to be moldable. You have to be self-driven. Right. Put it this way, all the qualities that it takes to be a successful teammate, you have to have. Yeah. And I desperately want that in the people that we hire. So I don't necessarily look for, when you say skill set, I don't necessarily look for knowledge per se. I think you can learn, and many of us learn on the job every day, right? But do you have those other, both tangibles and intangibles that can help you be a good teammate? And at the end of the day, if we have enough good teammates, then I got no problem that I'm sure we'll be successful.
Right. So if you had a chance to, if you were speaking to, you know, a bunch of individuals who wanted to be athletic directors,
yeah.
Is there? Well, let me ask it this way.
I can say you want the smart aleck response?
No, because I don't know if there's a good answer to this question. But if you had an opportunity to better prepare for the job,
sure,
what would you do?
Develop thick skin. I don't know how you do that,
right.
Without actually going through the process. But developing thick skin, I think, is something that I have learned, that I've acquired over the past year and a half. I think I would tell young people to, wow, that's a really good question. I talk a lot, yeah. And somehow I can't probably fully articulate exactly how I would want to talk to someone who's interested in it, because usually the question is more specific to how do you like it, how'd you get there. Oh, yeah. Thick skin, and I think we had talked a little bit about it beforehand, is establishing some core values, yeah. Because the hardest thing in our industry, whether you're an AD or whether you're in some sort of a leadership position, is how do you find ways to make the best decision, right. For your organization based on your core values. And I think that's why establishing those and living within those core values is really, really helpful to be successful and have some sustainability in this industry.
I agree with that. You know what to fall back on. I'm making a decision based on these.
Yes.
So it's not a gray area.
Sure, right. Sure. Yeah, the challenge, at least for us at our well, probably at lots of levels, just, you know, there's commas and zeros that differentiate us, is when there's two core values that compete against one another. And that's the challenge, right? It's always the student-athlete experience, in my opinion, is always first and foremost. But that also rubs up against financials and our resources, both human and financial. So when those two things butt heads, how then do you make the decision that is in the best interest of your organization? And those are times when you kind of have some sleepless nights.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you joining us, Alan.
Of course. My
Thank you
pleasure,
very
Ty.
much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.